Hey guys, Sliceable Paper here, and we just had a whole bunch of new cards released from the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion, and we're going to go into a few of them, but before we do that, I'd like to do a quick clarification on a card that I'm not sure I had a good look at last time, and that card is Spirit Lash, the priest common spell that was released a few weeks ago. I don't think I fully clarified that this spell is going to hit every minion on the board versus just the enemy minions. What this means is that your minions are going to be affected as well. This is not going to change my opinion of the card. I think it's a good card to use as a control priest versus an aggro opponent. It's going to heal you for the amount of damage done to the board. So say they have 5 minions on the board and you have 3, you're going to heal for 8 unless you play Blood Mage Thalnos or some other spell damage increaser, in which case you're going to heal for 2 or 3 or even 4, depending on how much spell damage you had, times the number of minions on the board. So you're going to heal pretty good, and it's going to be an excellent matchup for a control priest versus an aggro matchup, which is going to be great. I just want to apologize for any confusion that there may have been. Thank you very much for your understanding. So on to the new cards. The new card we have is Ticking Abomination. It's a 4-mana rare neutral card. Stat line of 5/6. Death Rattle. Deal 5 damage to your minions. This is a decent stat line for a 4-drop. It's going to be comparable to the Warlock card, Pit Lord. And Pit Lord has a very similar effect, but it's a little bit different. It does deal 5 damage, but Pit Lord will deal 5 damage to your hero rather than to all of your minions. Because of that, I think Pit Lord is a much better card than Ticking Abomination. And Pit Lord is almost never played in Constructed. Pit Lord's drawback being much less damaging to you than Ticking Abomination. Abomination is going to clear your board pretty much unless you have a high health 2 or 3 drop. And in the end, I think hero health damage is ultimately going to be less of an issue than damaging your own minions. Let's say it's going to be okay if you have no board. But other than that, I don't think I'd just be using this card in Constructed. It should be a much better card in Arena, where stats are much more of a concern for cards than in Constructed, and dropping a big 4-drop like that, tempoing it out is going to be very, very good. But I think this is going to be a low to mid-tier card at best. I think just with the card's ability, there are better 4-drops to draft than this one. Although on occasion you may draft this if you have like a really crappy choice, or you just decide to go with the stats. Alright, the next card we're going to take a look at is Plague Scientist. It's a 3-mana rogue common, 2/3 for 3 mana. Combo, give a friendly minion poisonous. I don't think this is a very good stat line for a 3-drop. 2/3 is actually a pretty good stat line for a 2-drop, but not a 3. I think this is going to be an interesting fit in Constructed, going to help Rogue counter the big taunts of Taunt Warrior. I'm not sure where it's going to fit into a current Constructed Rogue deck, like Combo, or not Combo, Miracle Rogue or Quest Rogue. I'm not sure where that's going to fit into those. But I think there might be a new deck archetype created in this expansion that it might fit into. This is going to be a very good Arena card. It's a common, and it's going to get set bonus, where you're going to see a lot of these if you're playing against rogues. You may even see a lot of these when you're drafting Rogue. This is going to be a great way to help you get rid of those big taunt minions, the bog creepers, the mastodons that your enemy is going to be dropping. The only downside to this is you're going to need a board or another minion on board to get value out of this card. So you can't be playing from too much or from too far behind. But if you can say you got late game, you got like a 2 or a 3 drop and this card in your hand, you can drop that 2 drop or that 3 drop, give it poisonous, and use that as a prevention against enemy big minions. Like I said, we're going to see a lot of these in Arena. Rogue is a top tier class, and this is just going to give it more tools. The next card we're going to look at is Icebreaker. 3 mana Shaman rare weapon. 1/3 stat line. Destroy a frozen minion damaged by this. The problem with this card is, as of this moment, Shaman does not have many ways to freeze a minion. You just got Frost Shock and the neutral card Frost Elemental, the 6-drop that's going to freeze enemies as a battle cry. So I think unless Blizzard introduces a lot more freeze effects for Shaman in this expansion, this card is going to be very bad and constructed. The stat line is going to be low for a 3-drop weapon. So in Arena, I think this card is going to be even worse. Again, like I said, the stat line is very low, and it's going to be very unlikely that you're going to draft freeze effects as a Shaman. Mainly because there's very few of them. And that's all I got to say about that card. It's not great. The next card that was shown is Blood Queen Lanethel. It's a 5-mana Warlock Legendary. Stat line starts out as a 1/6. It's going to grow as you discard cards. It's going to get +1 attack for each card you've discarded this game. This effect is going to apply when the card is in your deck and in your hand, so that's pretty good. It's going to activate even if you draw it from your deck with cards like Yashiraj, or if the enemy even pulls it with a Dirty Rat drop. I think this is going to need a hit on at least 3 cards to get full value, so you're going to want it to be at least a 4/6 for it to get decent stats. Lifesteal is going to be very good on this, especially as a Warlock where you're tapping and doing other self-harming things. So you're going to be able to heal up from that with this card. I think this is going to be dangerous to keep it in hand in the beginning. You're going to want to mulligan for another card if you're playing like a Disco Lock or something very similar with discard mechanics. Just mainly because you don't want to. This is a card that you really don't want to discard. You want to hold on to it. This card is going to be able to be resummoned by Cruel Dinomancer with the effect applied to it. I don't think you should rely on Cruel Dinomancer to resummon this, mainly because the way that card works is it's going to randomly pull any card you've discarded, so it's not a guarantee you're going to get the Blood Queen on the res effect. Also, you want to be careful how big this card is going to be when it's played. If you play it in too large, it's going to be a prime candidate for hard removal with polymorphs, hexes, and those kind of cards. So I would not rely on this card as a finisher to end the game. I think this card is going to be very interesting. Say you're in top deck war with your opponent, you pull this card, you plop it down as like an 8/6 or even a 9/6. It's end of game, you're down to 10, 8, maybe even 5 health. And you're able to heal back for a huge chunk. That's going to be very damaging to your opponent, and he's going to have trouble removing it. This card is going to be good in Arena if it's drafted along with other discard cards. So, I think it's going to be much better if it's drafted early, so you can kind of build around it. Otherwise, it's going to be a 5-mana 1/6 with lifesteal, which is not good. Because of the specificity required to play this card, the fact that you need to have discarded cards first, I don't think this is going to be a very good choice for Arena, unless your other 2 choices for legendaries are markedly worse, and that's not going to happen that often. Alright, we're going to look at Bloodrazor now. It's going to be a 4-mana warrior common weapon, stat line of 2/2, Battlecry deal 1 damage, and Death Rattle deal 1 damage to all minions. So you get a whirlwind effect when you play it, and when it goes away. This is effectively going to be 3 attack on a minion, with 1 attack to all others. You're going to play it, the Whirlwind activates, and then you swing for a specific minion for another 2 damage. Same thing the next turn, you'll swing for 2, and then it'll Whirlwind again. It's going to be a very solid card and constructed. The fact that it's a 4-drop means you can play an Acolyte of Pain the turn before, play this card the next turn. You're going to get value off that Acolyte for 2 turns, actually, because the Death Rattle will activate the turn after that, unless the enemy is able to get rid of your Acolyte. In Arena, it's going to be a solid weapon, but not an OP weapon. There's going to be better weapons you can draft, like Fiery War Axe, and other such cards. So I think you're going to get better choices there. The fact that it's a common helps, but I think you're going to find better weapons, unless your other weapon pick is like Tentacles for Arms or Brass Knuckles. So this is going to be a better card than those. Like I said, we're going to see this card a lot more often in Arena since it's a common and since it's going to get that set occurrence bonus. Alright, next we're going to look at Prince Taldaram. Very similar to the previous card that was announced, Prince Keleseth. It's going to have a very similar effect. If your card has no other 3-cost cards, transform this into a 3/3 copy of a minion. It's a cheap, faceless manipulator. You're not going to be able to copy the stat line of the enemy minion. You're just going to be able to get a 3/3 copy of the minion. This is going to be a very good card if you copy ongoing effects or good Death Rattle effects. I think this is going to be a good fit in some gimmick decks, like if you have a deck of Legends, or if you're running a Highlander type deck where you're in desperate need of like a 3-drop. I don't know where else you would use it, unless you have like some kind of weird deck where you have no 3-drops or you have very few 3-drops, and you're going to be able to use this, put it in there, and get some value off of it. Also want to note that this is going to be able to target friendly minions and enemy minions. So say your opponent plops down an Ysera, or you can plop down an Ysera, you'll get a nice double Ysera effect off of that. I'm not sure how this card is going to fit in Arena. 3-drops are almost as much a requirement, or having multiple 3-drops is almost as much a requirement as having a lot of 2-drops. So I don't know whether or not you'll be able to get value off of this. At best, I think you're just going to be able to get it for a 3-mana 3/3, which is not bad, but it's not great. Also, I mean, when you're drafting legendaries, you'll probably have a much better choice for a legendary than that. You're going to have a much better drafting pick. Next card we're going to look at is Nerubian Unraveler. A 6-mana 5/5. Spells are going to cost 2 more. It's an epic. The effect is very similar to Loatheb, who was in the Naxxramas expansion. This is going to play, although unlike Loatheb, who had a battle cry, this is going to be just an ongoing effect while it's on the board. This is a very understated card for 6-drop. A solid 6-drop would be something like a Boulder Fist Ogre, where you get a 6/7. So a 5/5 is going to be very understated. This is going to be a very interesting choice in Constructed. If you find yourself up against a spell-heavy deck, it's going to be a good tech choice against that. Spell-heavy decks like Freeze Mage, or against like Miracle Rogue that rely on those spells to affect the enemy board. It's also going to be an interesting pick against. If you see a lot of quest rogues, you're going to shoot up their bounce effects, the cost of their bounce effects. So that's going to be an interesting choice there. In Arena, this is going to be a very odd card, considering it's understated, but it's going to be a very good pick against like Mage or Rogue, where you're going to want to, especially against Mage, where you plop this down on when you've got a big board. It's going to help you push for that extra face damage when they're trying to play their Flame Strike on turn 7 and catch up. Then you suddenly plop this down on turn 6, and that screws up their entire plans. Now they got a 9-cost Flame Strike, and they have to deal with a 5/5 in addition to a board that you've built. So it's going to be a kind of a passive deterrent against, or an interesting counter against those spell-heavy decks, or those decks that rely on spells to remove your board. Next card we're going to look at is Mountain Fire Armor. This is going to be the last card I'm going to look at in this video. It's a Warrior rare card, 3 mana 4/3. Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, gain 6 armor. The big problem I have with this card is that it's only triggering on your opponent's turn, and it's not a taunt. So the way the opponent is going to counter this is either with a silence, or they're just going to ignore this card. In Constructed, this is not a very OP card. It doesn't have a very high stat line. It's not going to grow bigger. It's not a snowball effect card. It's just a 4/3 sitting on the board. I think the stat line is decent for a 3-drop, but it's not threatening enough is what I'm trying to say. At least in Constructed. In Arena, this is going to be a very solid card, especially for Warriors to use again, especially against Mage that relies on cards like Meteor. This is going to be an excellent passive deterrent against Meteor. You're going to place this. Say you play a big drop, and then you place this right next to it. The opponent's going to have to think as to whether or not removing that big drop with a Meteor is going to be worth giving you an additional 6 armor. So it's going to be, like I said, a passive deterrent against like Flame Strike or against Meteor. And the stat line is going to be good enough for a 3-drop in Arena. Alright, I hope this video was informative. I hope it's able to help you guys out. These videos are kind of a way for me to give you an idea as to how these cards are going to work out, and it's a way for me to think a little more critically about cards in general, and as to whether or not they're good or not. So I hope you guys like this video. If you like it, you can subscribe, you can like it, you can comment, and I thank you very much for watching.